morning to those of us that have joined us on streaming. We're on air at the moment, 8752, as we are every morning at this time, Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David, and we are getting fewer people up there in the tropics or subtropics. It actually looks quite decent today. A pretty nice day in certainly Fiji and the bottom half of Vanuatu and New Caledonia.
Yes.
I hear there are some boats wanting to go north. It certainly doesn't look very good in the northerly direction for those that are wanting to get up to the Marshall Islands and points between Fiji and there, but you'll be very patient. It's certainly no difficulty holding out in Fiji until the weather is a bit more decent than it is at the moment. Anyway, David will be covering the weather as usual very shortly. Meantime, we've just been talking to some of the boats on passage, and everyone is going well, particularly our single-handers. I haven't heard from Sedna, not that they're single-handers, haven't heard from anybody that left Minerva, but presume all is going well. It's pretty calm out there, so as long as you've got plenty of fuel, you'll be good.
It'd be nice to hear from a Minerva.
It would be, good to hear from a Minerva boat to know what's going on. So let me know anybody that's there. There's a couple of boats with good radio signals, so that would be good.
9 or 10 boats.
All right, let's go on to a little bit of news. Not that there is an awful lot, because of course in America, it being Tuesday still there, it's the end of their major voting session, and there's all sorts of predicted drama coming from there. So I'll give you the rundown of that tomorrow. But there's certainly going to be some very close, well, if you believe the news, there'll be some very close battles going on in the USA elections at the moment.
When can you ever believe?
No, well, you can't believe much in the news. You just sit there quietly. Your turn will come. Now, another tourist has been killed in a shark attack off the Whitsundays. This is the third incident in 7 weeks, folks. So anybody going to Australia, boy, I don't know what you do. You put a cage around yourself or something, but that's the third incident in 7 weeks. It was near Sid Harbour. For those that know the Whitsundays, it was just by Whitsunday Island, CID Harbour. So not too good for the end of the tourist who was enjoying the warm, clear waters of the Whitsundays. Well, they're not too clear, really, are they?
No.
But they're warm anyway. Staying with Australia, while we're there, I forgot to mention the Wentworth electorate, the former seat of the ex-Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull. It has gone to the independent candidate in the final countdown. So there is now a hung parliament, so quite possibly another election is a real possibility. They are still going at the moment because they've got the support of some of the independents that are there, but boy, it's now very close over there in Australia. The South American people caravan has reached Mexico City. They've established them at a huge sports arena. Medical tents have been set up, and I'm not quite sure what the story is going to be from there, how soon they'll move on, but they are now housed at this big arena. I hope they don't want to play any soccer anytime soon.
Let the balls loose.
Yes, let the balls loose. All right. One thing that I keep meaning to tell you, and I got reminded every time we go for a walk from our place, every tree is in bloom at the moment, folks, for you folk that are arriving. Crack out the allergy pills. It is spring, of course, so the trees are in bloom, but these strong winds, all of the pollen is absolutely everywhere. So the decongestants and hay fever meds are absolutely flying out of the pharmacies. So just be wary of that when you do arrive, because you've been in such lovely, clear air out there in the islands, and well, apart from the smoke in Fiji with the burning of the cane, but apart from that, beautifully clear, humid air, and you will notice big differences when you arrive. So if you think your eyes are out of whack, don't go to the optician for at least a month. You'll find that they come right. It's not just the hay fever, it's the fact that the humidity is, you'll get some very dry days, very low humidity. Eyesight goes to hell in a handbasket. So just be aware of that and don't panic about your eyesight. You'll probably think, oh, I'm 6 months older than when I left. I need to go and get these checked. Just tie-ho on that one. Air New Zealand yesterday took delivery of its new Airbus, what's called an A321neo. It's a 214-seat short-haul craft. There will be 13 of them arriving. They're meant to have very smart, quieter engines, which will be very lovely, particularly if they get onto the Fiji run. Those planes leave at ungodly hours of the morning, 2 and 3 o'clock. Mind you, some of those I think are Air Fiji, and they are Boeings, and they are incredibly noisy as they fly over our house. Even though they're mostly close to 10,000 feet, they are very, very noisy. Okay, Max, you'll be pleased to know, is still there and without, coming in on streaming. Sunny light winds, he's probably practicing carbonara. Okay, I think we've got quite a bit of weather to do. I'm going to pass the microphone shortly, but I'll just see if there's anybody in Minerva or has left Minerva to give us a report. Please come now. Nothing heard. Is there any relay? No, nothing heard. So I'm going to pass the microphone and we'll pick up anybody later. Oh, thank you, Ron. I've got no copy here. I'll make you work. Navarra, go ahead, and Pilgrim will relay.
Roger, I've got the white copy that's readable.
And you've come up with me too, so go ahead. Did you turn that on? Just do that. Down. Ron, I shouldn't have said anything because he faded on me. All I've got was a light south-southeast. Did you know where they are? Sorry, I put light south-southeast. That was all I got. Did he give you a figure? Oh, good. 8. Thank you. Got that. Yes, it's just a bit of fading in and out sometimes. So I've got all of that, Navarro. Sounds very pleasant on board. Apart from the fact that you're having to motor, but that's way better than the alternative, isn't it? Okay, thank you. Very useful. And I'm now going to pass the microphone to David.
All right, good morning. And we're going to take a quick look at 500 millibar. We've got a shortwave trough that's residing right near the cruising route. The axis is about 170 west, while a ridge claims pretty much the space that's south of this particular trough. And then over in the Tasman, we have a ridge that presides, and that is followed by a very sharp shortwave trough. It's left-leaning. It's over the Osbight and Tasmania, so you can picture the lean, if you will. That's the axis of the trough. Now, it's this last trough that's bad news, in that it's producing and maintaining a pretty nasty complex low system that is going to be south of New Zealand, and that's throwing pretty big seas to the north. I think we talked about this yesterday. I had thought that a lot of the large seas would come down considerably by the time they got to the islands, but we are getting some reports of big seas that are up in the islands areas as well, and that's where it's coming from. Now, our surface high lies just to the northeast of New Zealand, and that's ridging toward New Caledonia, while we've got cyclonic flow and numerous troughs over the Tasman. Now, those of you that are underway from NewCal today should have pretty good direction winds. I would say northeast at 22 south, actually at 25 south as well, and northerlies at 30 south. And I would say looking at northwest at about 32 south, in fact, all the way to New Zealand at that point. And this continues right on through Friday. That's your arrival day, I hope it is, with your northerlies as you approach New Zealand, and they'll be tending northwest. And then right after that, of course, is our frontal band. The Minerva yachts, they should pretty well have some good winds on their little trip to New Zealand, right through Friday, really. They'll be coming in about the same time as the NewCal boats, east-southeast to east, and then finally northwest as you're near New Zealand. So you can see the arc of the winds based upon the isobar shape of the high that's sitting in the way. And call us if you want winds in between if you need it. I've only heard one boat that's come from Minerva out of the 10 that were asking questions before. So it would have been nice to hear from you to see what you actually are getting. It helps me determine which of all these models are doing a pretty good job and which are not. Now, the Fiji yachts have about 20 knots east-southeast if you're around 20 south. And the reports that we've gotten, a lot of the boats underway are around 20 south, give or take. And those winds are about 20 knots, 16, 17, up to 20 right in that area. So that's pretty good. Then east-southeast, 15 to 20 at 25 south. That will be on Thursday. And then northerlies come Friday. Now, the frontal band is going to arrive after dinner, Friday into Saturday, and by late Sunday into Monday, the next high is going to be approaching the country. So your winds are going to turn south, and then south-southeast, and then eventually east-southeast by Wednesday, the 14th. So those that are a bit late coming in from Fiji, that's what you've got. You'll have that front to go through, which will be dissipating in the process, followed by that high. Now, looking longer range, a good deal of convective activity continues into next week. GFS picks a low to form near Fiji by around Tuesday of next week, whereas EC is picking the disturbance to be near Vanuatu. So we're going to have to wait and see exactly who's correct on that one. But something is cooking up there, so we'll wait and see. Now, it's possible those that did not leave Fiji may look at, well, you may look at going now to give it a go. The next probable front after this coming weekend front, we'll find it in the mid-Tasman probably by Friday around the 16th. I think Friday is the 16th. And then there'll be 2 or 3 more days before it strikes New Zealand. So that gives you an extra couple of days to make it into the country. And your passage winds will be southeast, some of it southeast. So you'll be fairly hard on the wind. But if you're desperate enough to make the trip, then go ahead and take the chance. That's about what we see. Now, weather up in the tropics, as I said, are strewn with convective activity, and we do have 2 developing disturbances. We mentioned that yesterday. One is northeast of the Solomons, the other is northeast of Rotuma. Now, frontal bands, actually troughs, extend from these disturbances and do affect a number of areas like Wallis and Futuna, Samoa, Tokelau, the Santa Cruz Islands, and so forth. Now, the odds for tropical cyclone development from these this is pretty long odds, but one never knows in this case. So please stay in touch with the weather as you're basking in paradise. It must be beautiful up there. Now, we'll move to looking at Tonga and satellite imagery. This morning, the loop shows cloud bands over the country. A trough still affects Nui Tukutapu there to the north, but the rest of the main group doesn't show any real organized trough per se, but there is enough cloud to produce rain and the occasional thunderstorm, so be wary there in Tonga. I have a few tides for you. The high was at 7 o'clock this morning, and the low is roughly 1,300 hours just after lunch. Now, the conditions at a few of the airports early this morning, Vavau was showing southeast 7 knots, scattered cloud, barometer 1012. The Hapais reported east 14 and scattered cloud. And some of that cloud are towering cumulus. These you need to watch carefully. They can develop into thunderstorms quite readily. Barometer 1012 as well. Tongatapu, east 6 knots, scattered cloud, barometer 104. So your winds now by lunch today, east-southeast, getting up to 20 knots. And about the same thing tomorrow. There's a bit of a range there, but they'll be approaching the 20-knot mark, I think. Now, Fiji on imagery does show scattered cloud as well. So for today and tomorrow, expect these cloudy periods with off and on scattered showers. In between, you'll have nice sunny conditions. So it's really a mix there in Fiji. Now, we do have fresh winds thanks to the strong high to the south. Fiji Met now has issued a strong wind warning for all waters, and they are saying southeast winds 20 to 25 knots with 30 knots off and on, and particularly Vatui Ra Pass and southwest Viti Levu, the two usual suspects for fairly heavy winds. Now remember the large swells that I mentioned, well, according to Fiji Met, they have arrived. They're calling 2 to 3 meters rolling in, and combine that with a pretty high tide, the risk of inundation of some of these low-lying coastal areas is quite high. And of course, all of this data is from Fiji Met. The further outlook is southeast 20 to 25 knots, so expect pretty rough seas today and tomorrow. Now, scattered cloud also for Vanuatu, and expect the cloudy conditions to persist, but plenty of breaks for you. Winds east-southeast to southeast 15 to 20, but I think in the open seas I'll be favoring the high side of this band. Tomorrow, a slight ease, we'll call it 15 to 20, east-southeast to southeast, and be wary again of a possible disturbance around Monday the 12th. Over to Newcal, which looks pretty good this morning. Plenty of sun, although there is scattered cloud that we can see on imagery. Winds by lunch east to east-southeast, about 15 to 20 in our lagoon area. Picking up by dinner, we'll call it 20 knots, maybe gusting up to 30. Tomorrow, a bit of a shift east to east-northeast, about 10 to 15, but mainly easterlies a little bit later in the day. We'll call it 15 to 20 knots. So it's a bit choppy for the lagoon and the Elos, but that's what we've got. And the actuals this morning, about 6 a.m., Amity Light, the outer lagoon, east 21 knots, Ile de Pan, east-southeast 7, Noumea, easterlies 15 knots, and the Loyalties averaging it out southeast about 14 knots. So that's the ticket for today. Any questions or comments, areas I haven't mentioned that you need to know about, come now, and I'll pass it over to the chief.
Okay, there are a few have just come in, and if you have questions, folks, you've really got to get those questions in before we start. It's almost impossible to get them in at the end of the broadcast and try and handle them I'm just looking at iSphere's update. They are at 22 and 174.5 east with 16 knots from the southeast. Interested to know what the winds will be in the next 24 to 48 hours, but I think you've covered that. You've covered that. Okay, that's good on that one. Just looking at Anahata, which is another one of our single-handers. He's at 2155 and 17530, and he's got southeast less than 20. Beautiful day, 5% cloud cover, all well on board there. He's doing 6.5 in a 210 direction. And now we've got a message for anybody interested in where Quintessa is, and well, where are they? In Rarotonga, relaxing, so that's good. And Alan will be heading off to Minerva. A couple of other boats are heading to Minerva in the next few days. Citrus Tart, I love that name, heading to Minerva from Suva, believe it or not. So that one's interesting. A report in from Alcyon, who came from New Caledonia. Not much wind still, east-northeast, about 6 knots. He's now down at 2842. 17031. Quite cloudy, 90% cloud cover for those guys, and they're, I presume, motoring along, or sailing, it says 5 knots, so not too bad there.
Those that haven't done that trip before, they're very lucky.
Yeah, very lucky, says David. Yeah. All right, we have a report in from Andiamo too, and who have got much better wind. Not that they are really enjoying it by the look of it. It's funny reading the reports, folks. I did a bit of a chuckle last night reading some of the reports. Some people are quite enjoying, well, not enjoying, but a bit bumpy, said one of them, and one of them said the worst conditions they've ever had. So it just depends on your approach, really, and what you've been used to. Anyway, getting back to Andiamo, they are at 1922 and 17633. Going along quite nicely, 6 knots, and it's blowing southeast 22 with rough seas and higher gusts in the squalls. They've had a pretty rough night, 28 to 33 knots for most of the time since they left Nabula Pass, and so they are reefed down and looking forward, I think, to getting south to that lighter air that you were talking about. So it will come. So keep the faith and just enjoy the fact that you're probably not eating all that well, so you'll be nice and slim and ready to get stuck in when the engine has to go on and things calm down. All right. Having said that, is there anybody with anything? I'll just check the streaming again. We've got Scoots leaving tomorrow as well. So anybody with anything, please call. Oh, good morning to Avalon, and yes, I've got your report came in before, and it's on Yit. Actually, that reminds me, folks, if you want me to put your position on Yit, let me know, because the problem at the moment is that if people have not paid the amount that Mike wants, I get right through all of the report and then find it won't go on. So if you want me to put, as I do know for Avalon now, to put it on from an email, let me know, and I shall put your report on Yit. Okay, Avalon, go ahead.
Good morning. We are at predicted 3050 south of 1690. COP 120 to 6 north. Now about 20% barometer and over.
Okay, I had a bit of a double there, but I've got a bit of an update from your report before. I've got you at now 3050, and there was a double at the longitude, but I think it's 168, and I'll just leave it at the 09. So you've got 20% cloud cover now, so that's much improved from half an hour ago. With a bar of 1018, you're getting towards that high. Over. Could you repeat the question? You have dropped away a little bit. Those are the conditions that we have this morning, up and down. What was the question? Over?
Wind, looking for the wind and days, and when it doesn't happen to you on whether that wind will northwest around midday, over.
Okay, I'll pass the microphone. I'm quite surprised to still be getting you at your position, because usually we lose votes about this stage. I'm just going to pass the microphone.
What's the question?
He wants wind. Yes.
Well, we can't have everything. I'll tell you, folks, the people that are coming in from the islands now, New Caledonia, I'm deviating a little bit, I know, but to have these conditions, these northerly quadrant winds, especially if you're coming from New Caledonia, believe me, kiss all the gods that you know about, because we have done this trip many times, and it is usually a bear to get to New Zealand. So humans are funny; they're never happy. But no, the air is going to stay pretty light. Looking at Thursday, looking into Friday, they'll certainly pick up, because Friday is the day that the cold front starts to nudge onto New Zealand, and your winds, depending upon where you are, but my guess is northerlies 15 to 20, so you'll get more than what you've got now. But looking at later today, fairly light air, because, as Patricia said, you're fairly close to the middle of the high. But boy, I'll take these conditions any day over what it usually is. Over.
Avalon, did you copy?
Yes, Patricia, talking to Mark, I got the sense of what they were saying. I think that we're into the high, right there. The northerly direction is all
Roger, and yes, just prepare yourself for the cold front coming in on Friday. You'll get those northerly 15 to 20 Friday, so you'll certainly get a good push then. So, yep, make the most of it and enjoy it while it's light. I guess the engine is on, but it's not too much of a problem, is it? Okay, clear with Avalon. Anybody else? Any relays? Mezzaluna, pretty light, but go ahead.
And I was trying to see with the weather conditions,
Okay, and you came up at the end, so you can now repeat everything you just said. Over.
Currently at 2110 south, 17552 east. Point 210, doing about 5 knots. Over.
Okay, that all was good. It's interesting, isn't it, that you couldn't pick it up the first time round. The radio must have decided to wake itself up. So, Mezzaluna, one of those ones that are enjoying the lumpy seas at the moment. David's just going to have a look here and tell us when you're going to calm down. 2110-17552 east with lumpy seas. They're still managing 5 knots though on a course of 210. What's going to happen? You're on the outskirts of this high. Hang on.
Yeah, you are, and the high, the axis of the high is extending to just north of Hervey Bay to Cairns, really. So you're on the north side of the axis. Your winds tomorrow will be easterly, east-southeast, I would say. The mean wind about 15 knots. So should be beautiful sailing conditions like tomorrow. Over.
I don't know if you'd said the opposite, whether you would have got a thank you, but anyway, that sounds an awful lot better. Yeah, it's never pleasant, is it, to start with having to use the bags on board. All right. That sounds as if we've wrapped everything up. Nothing much more coming through here on streaming. Good morning to you folk. And we will be back again tomorrow morning. What is it tomorrow? Thursday. We've got a lovely day out here today. I'm looking at my chameleon rose. I've got a chameleon rose. Chameleon's our boat name, of course. And it's just smothered in flowers. And, of course, they're all different colours. Well, different shades of yellow and red and white and so on. As they bloom, they change. So it's just a glorious morning. Nothing's been battered about like it has been the last few days. Have a good day, everybody out there, and we will talk to you tomorrow. Cheers, all. We are clear.